Every man, woman, and child in the United States owes over $100,000. This isn't a mortgage, it's not a student loan or a credit card bill. It's your share of a debt so colossal it has stopped being a number and has become a system of control. You've been told your entire life that debt must be repaid. But what if the most powerful country in the world built its entire empire on a debt that was never meant to be paid back? What if it's a trap and we're all inside it?
We're trained to think about debt in personal terms. You borrow money, you pay it back with interest. Simple. Politicians use this analogy all the time, talking about tightening the nation's belt. But this is the first and most critical lie. Government debt, especially for a country that prints the world's money, operates under a completely different set of rules. It's not a household credit card. It's the engine of a global financial system. And once you understand how that engine really works, you'll see that the word repayment is nothing more than a fantasy. If you're ready to see how the real system operates, make sure you subscribe. We don't stick to the headlines here.
So where does this mountain of money come from? When the US government wants to spend more than it collects in taxes, which is always, it doesn't just print money, not directly. Instead, the Treasury Department creates a special kind of IOU called a Treasury bond. Think of it as the most secure loan in the world. The government sells these bonds to anyone who will buy them: American investors, pension funds, insurance companies, and even foreign governments. In exchange for their cash today, the government promises to pay them back in the future with interest. This is how the debt is born.
Now, a common myth is that China is America's banker and can pull the plug at any moment. While China is a major holder, they are far from the biggest. The truth is, the majority of U.S. debt is owned by Americans themselves. It's held in retirement accounts, by insurance companies, and by individual investors. But the most interesting and powerful owner is a category all its own: the Federal Reserve, America's central bank. And its role in this system is what turns the situation from merely unsustainable into something else entirely. What happens when the government wants to borrow, but there aren't enough buyers for its bonds? This is where the game gets weird. The Federal Reserve steps in. Through a process they call quantitative easing, the Fed essentially creates new money out of thin air on its computer systems. It then uses this newly created money to buy Treasury bonds from the open market. Let that sink in. A branch of the government is creating money to loan to another branch of the government. It's the financial equivalent of taking out a loan from yourself to pay your own bills. This is the ultimate backstop. It ensures the government can always borrow, no matter what. This brings us to the core of the issue. The U.S. government has absolutely no intention of ever paying off the principal of its debt. When a batch of old Treasury bonds comes due, the Treasury simply issues new bonds to raise the cash to pay off the old ones. It's called rolling over the debt. They are essentially paying off one credit card by taking out a new, bigger one. As long as there are people, institutions, and a central bank willing to buy the new bonds, this can continue forever. The goal isn't to reduce the debt. The goal is always to be able to make the minimum interest payments.
So you might be thinking, why not just fix this? Why not raise taxes and cut spending like a responsible adult? Because it's politically impossible. There are only two ways to pay down the debt in a real way. First, you could dramatically raise taxes on everyone to a level that would cripple the economy and guarantee no politician ever gets re-elected. Second, you could gut government spending. We're not talking about trimming the fat. We're talking about amputating limbs, Social Security, Medicare, the military. Both options are political suicide. No one has the will to do it, so they kick the can down the road.
But let's imagine they did it. Imagine a wave of political courage sweeps Washington, and they decide to actually pay down the debt. The economic result would be catastrophic. To pay the debt, the government would have to pull trillions of dollars out of the economy through taxes, far more than it puts back in through spending. This would cause a massive contraction. Demand would collapse, businesses would fail, unemployment would skyrocket. It would trigger a deflationary death spiral where prices and wages fall, making the remaining debt even harder to pay. It would be a self-inflicted Great Depression, but worse. The cure is far more deadly than the disease. So if the debt can't be paid, why hasn't the whole system collapsed? The answer is one of the most powerful forces in modern history. The US dollar is the world's reserve currency. Oil, wheat, Copper. Nearly all major international commodities are priced and traded in dollars. This creates a constant artificial demand for US dollars from every country on Earth. To buy oil, Japan needs dollars. To buy soybeans, Germany needs dollars. And how do they get those dollars? They sell America goods and services. What does America give them in return? Dollars, which they then use to buy US Treasury bonds. It's the perfect loop. This system forces the rest of the world to finance American debt. Foreign countries sell the US real things, cars, electronics, clothes, and in return, they get digital dollars. Because they have so many of these dollars, one of the safest places to park them is in US Treasury bonds. In effect, they are lending that money right back to the US government. This has been called the exorbitant privilege. America gets to import real goods and export paper IOUs that it never has to truly pay back. It's the greatest financial advantage any nation has ever possessed. So, if the debt is never repaid with real austerity, how is it dealt with? Through a slow, silent, and insidious process, inflation. When the government and the central bank create trillions of new dollars to fund spending and buy bonds, they dilute the value of every other dollar in existence. Your savings can now buy less than they could a year ago. This is a form of default. It's a hidden tax. The government isn't technically refusing to pay you back. They are paying you back with dollars that are worth significantly less than the ones you lent them. They are repaying the number, but not the value. This isn't a new story. History is littered with empires whose reserve currency status allowed them to run up massive debts. The British Empire and the pound sterling are the most recent example. For over a century, the pound was the world's money. Britain financed 2 world wars through enormous debt, believing their position was unassailable. But the debt eventually became too large, the empire too costly, and faith in the pound eroded. The United States and the dollar were waiting in the wings to take its place. History shows that these systems are not permanent. How does this end? There are a few possibilities, none of them gentle. The first is a runaway inflationary spiral. The government prints so much money to service the debt that it destroys the currency's value, leading to economic chaos. The second is a long, slow decay, like what happened to Britain, a managed decline, where the US standard of living slowly erodes and another power, perhaps China, rises to challenge the dollar's dominance. The third is a more deliberate scenario, a global monetary reset, where the world's major powers agree to a new system, potentially involving digital currencies or a basket of currencies, effectively devaluing the debt overnight. The inescapable conclusion is this: the US national debt is not a problem to be solved. It is the system itself. It is the mechanism that allows for a level of consumption and military power that would be impossible otherwise. It underpins the dollar's global dominance and forces the world to play by American rules. The system isn't broken, it's working exactly as it was designed to. It was never meant to be repaid. It was meant to be perpetual. This isn't just an academic exercise. This system has real consequences for you, your savings, and your future. It means the cash you hold is guaranteed to lose value over time. It means the economic ground beneath our feet is not as solid as it appears. Understanding this isn't about being pessimistic, it's about being realistic. It allows you to make smarter decisions about how you save, how you invest, and how you prepare for a future where the only certainty is that the numbers will keep getting bigger. The debt will never be repaid. The only question is, who will ultimately pay the price? Is this a stable system that can last another century, or a time bomb waiting to explode? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.